Hey guys, welcome to the Million Dollar Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Sedini, and we're going to discuss insights and latest strategies to help you scale your business. I have here my friend and special guest, Marley Jaxx. She's a renowned marketing strategist, YouTube expert, and founder of Jaxx Productions. I'm super excited to talk with her about some of her background, such as growing her YouTube channel to 150,000 subscribers. We might be higher than that by now.
A little bit.
Winning film festival awards. Wow. And helping clients like Chris Abbott achieve massive success. All right. So the focus of today is going to be how you are helping transform businesses into media empires, bridging organic content for growth. So I'm going to let you talk, Marley, and I just want to give you I want you to give us a little background and about your experience in marketing online business.
I started off as a dental hygienist, which is like, oh yeah, easy jump over from dental to YouTube. I was a very bored dental hygienist. I wasn't a very good dental hygienist. I feel like I mostly talked to my patients
And they can't talk back to you. They're like,
right, like it's a one-way conversation. Yeah. I was an okay dental hygienist, but there's definitely like a type. Like the hygienists that I worked with were obsessed with teeth, and they're very detail oriented, which is great. That's the kind of hygienist you want. But like I was just like relationships and stories, and I kind of joke that like the dental office where I first learned storytelling and split testing, because when I would get to the dental office in the morning, I would think of a story to tell my patients. And then each patient, I would change the story to see which ones would get the better reactions. And by the end of the day, I had like this great story.
Yeah, the best story ever. And it wasn't at all true.
Some of them were. But yeah, ridiculous. So I started doing social media on the side, actually for the dental office, because I was bored between patients. And then it turned into, they started referring me to some of their other business owner friends. And then overnight, I had a business and like had no idea that you could even just get paid to do this. And then that grew into building a YouTube agency, having a consulting program. We've worked with incredible people, turned them into celebrities in their niche. We've worked with celebrities. And I turned when I was a kid, I used to steal my dad's video camera to make little movies with my friends and my cousins on the weekend. And I turned my childhood hobby into a career.
That's amazing. That's so fun. Thank you for sharing that story. 'Cause I didn't know all. I knew you were a dental hygienist. I knew that was where you like came from, but I didn't know the journey, and that was super fun. So can you tell me a little bit about like your YouTube channel, your YouTube journey, and some of that growth and your awards and things like that? Like brag it up a little bit, Marley.
Yeah, last year, so January 2023, January 1st, we had 40,000 subscribers. And then September 2023, 9 months later, we had 100,000. And so the whole 4 years, more like 6 years before was just slow, gradual growth to 40,000. And that was after like hundreds of videos. I think at this point, I think I'm nearing 1,000 videos on YouTube. Yeah, wow. We're going to get close to that. And then from January to September, it was just like just hockey stick spike. And I think that that's definitely a testament to the like, don't give up. You never know when you're just 3 feet from gold. Like I love that story, or the picture of the guy that's mining and he gives up and he's just like right there.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really cool because it was also like I made 2 documentaries last year that brought a lot of viewership to our channel, but it was also some of my older videos that I hadn't even touched. Not like we're running ads to them or anything, but the cool thing with YouTube is like a video from the past can just totally spike and hit it off out of nowhere. And it was a video from 2019 that just spiked and now has almost 2 million views.
Wow. That's so cool. I've heard that about YouTube, but I haven't heard like a specific story about it, and I haven't experienced that yet on my YouTube channel. But I'm not going to give up, right? Like I'm in it, I'm doing it. Tell me, can you just talk a little bit about the story behind helping Chris Abbott reach $4 million in revenue? Because that's also pretty notable.
Yeah. When he came to us, his ad account got shut down and he was like constantly trying to fight with the Facebook ad reps, which was so frustrating for him. And like, I've had that happen to me too. You've helped me through it. And so he's like, I gotta kind of diversify my attention that I'm getting online. And I did not know this at the time. I probably wouldn't have taken him on as a client if I knew this, but he invested his last $2,000 to work with us.
Oh.
And he only had like 100 subscribers on his channel. And the next month he was like so committed. The next month he made 82,000. And he had a small niche audience. Like after like a few months, it was like 170 subscribers and then maybe 300 subscribers. And it was so slow but gradual. And it's funny, he'll tell this story of his friends being like, are you pissed that you're spending so much money on your YouTube channel and like you have such a small following? And he's like, you have no idea what's happening on the back end. Because even though it's a small channel, it's directly speaking to the perfect clients and they're binge watching the content that by the time they get on a call, they're not sales calls, they're enrollment calls. And so that's just such a great story that sure, we can take channels and we can make them big. And we have had clients that reached hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers. But then there's also people that can have these small, niche, very profitable YouTube channels.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I love hearing that. It sort of also gives me hope because I have a very small following. And I am speaking to a specific niche as well. So yeah. All right. I want to segment that then into talking about like marketing strategies and brand building. So what are your biggest recommendations? I mean, we're headed into, the tail end of 2024, which where did it go, by the way? What are some of the key marketing strategies that you're looking at or that you're deploying with your clients going into Q4, and then also maybe even thinking ahead to Q1 of 2025? What's hot and up and coming?
Everything organic. Like I hear so many people that they're worried about the economy. They're worried about who's going to be president. And my clients or the brands that I observe that are stable no matter what's going on externally are the ones that have a brand. They know how to build a brand. They create content. And of course, ads are only going to amplify that. But it's nice when you have both because you can amplify both. And so my clients that have YouTube content, that have organic followings on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, they're the ones that they can own that attention instead of rent it. But then when you do rent it, it also can make your acquisition cost so much lower, which I know you know all about.
Yeah.
So it's all just about that consistency with content. I was on a podcast just before this, and the guy was like, hey, congratulations on being so consistent. And I was like, you know what? Thank you. That's not something I've celebrated enough. But the people that are going to succeed are the ones that are like, I will not stop. Even if I don't. I mean, look at Chris Abbott. Like, he could have quit being like, I only have 170 subscribers.
Yeah.
But it's not about the vanity metrics. And I love this story. Like Mr. Beast, who's one of the biggest creators on YouTube, 300 million subscribers. He, after 100 videos, only had, I think it was 760 subscribers. A lot of marketers and entrepreneurs would have given up way before that because they're so used to this instant gratification mindset. Or I heard this morning someone call it a microwave economy. Like we want that instant. And they would have given up instead of, I mean, I was consistent with my YouTube videos, even if it was like very gradual growth. And then one day it hit it off. And then also the people that come through now, even if I stop creating content, I still have that content that is like owning attention real estate, that people can find my videos from years ago, still come into my funnels, get on my email list, book a call. I'm still surprised all the time when someone's like, oh yeah, I found you from a YouTube video. Which one? Oh, this one. I'm like, I posted that in 2019. Awesome. So glad you're here.
Yeah, that's super cool. And that's really encouraging for me too, Marley, because I'm on like episode 15 or 16 of this show, and I've been posting it. And literally this week I was like, would anyone really even notice if I stop?
That's the temptation that you have to keep going. Like you have to get past that because most podcasts or YouTube channels are just graveyards. Like people, I think the stat is like people give up after 7. Actually,
I'm double.
Yeah, you got it. I was in a masterclass yesterday with a podcast expert, and he said that there are 4 million podcasts, but how many of them are active? And he had people in the chat guess how many of those podcasts are actually active. And I think the answer was like 300,000. And then he goes, and then of those, how many posted a podcast in the last week was like 100-something thousand. So when you have that big of an audience or a big of a, I don't know, sea of competition, but then you actually go down to like, it's actually only 100,000 that are posting regularly.
Yeah.
You're actually in a huge advantage. Keep going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I'm encouraged by that.
You go.
I'm going to keep going. Even though I have probably like 10 YouTube channel subscribers and 3 of them are like my parents or my students. So, all right, in preparation for this interview, I asked you some questions. And one of the things that you talked about was the concept of 1% content and how it differs from the rest. Can you just touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, I came to this number because when I got 100,000 subscribers, the stat of channels that reach 100,000 subscribers is only 1%. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that's the mindset of if I want to have what the 1% have, I have to do what 99% are not willing to do. So when we look at what are 99% of people doing, are they doing the formulaic content that's like step 1, step 2, step 3, and the thumbnails with the pointing and the shocked face, but also mindsets. Like the 99% are the people who they want to fit in. Well, we know that fitting in is failing. They are scared to be polarizing, but we know that polarizing is what brings out passion and reaches more people. And polarizing and talking about being disruptive doesn't mean that you have to be offensive. But when you're passionate about something, people will be offended either way. Like,
absolutely.
My examples when I talk about people in history that were polarizing is like, oh, I don't know, Jesus, Mother Teresa, Gandhi.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people give me pushback of like, I'm not trying to upset anyone. And I'm like, but you will either way.
Yeah. So. And that's one of those things too. Like we have our clients fill out some like messaging surveys and things like that, especially if it's very unclear of what they, what some of their messaging is. And we ask them like, what do you stand for? What is, what do you take a stand against? Like we've got to have some of that in our messaging, in our content, in order for people to be like, that's the person I'm going to work with, or like, I could never work with you because you are a Jesus follower. Like, okay, fine. I don't want you anyways. Like,
yeah, and also to not try to fit or contort what doesn't fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. All right. So we touched on this briefly, but I do want to shift into talking about organic content, adapting to economic shifts. So what are some tips for entrepreneurs on leveraging YouTube over other platforms for growth? You know me, I'm huge into Facebook ads. We do Facebook, Instagram, and then I might be putting some ad spend behind some of that and things like that. So I know there's power in organic content, but how do we create that engaging, authentic material, and how can we adapt some of that to some of the things that we're seeing in the economy?
Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about this before of my content from the past that is still generating leads or still showing up for people today. So as much as we love Facebook ads, like when we stop putting money into Facebook ads, Facebook stopped showing it to people. But with YouTube, it lasts. So again, like I call it real estate, like owning attention real estate. So when you're creating that content, we want to imagine that the content I create today could be something that people find years from now. So keep that in mind, that we want it to be evergreen. If you're talking about something that is happening current, and if you're like, hey, click here to come to my event on Friday. Well, if they find that 3 years from now, they're like, this isn't for me, click off.
They fall into a broken funnel and then they lose trust and all of that.
Sure. At least we can change funnels. Like I used to have YouTube videos about Twitter when I first started my social media agency before niching into more video. But I can still make the link drive to, hey, here's a thing, but if you're on Twitter, you're going to want to be on YouTube. Here's why I opt in for this. So you can change things, just don't make them time sensitive to a date or something. But then also, most importantly, is that, okay, so you want to make sure that your content is evergreen. You want to make sure that your content is speaking to a cold audience, because if all goes well, it is going to be a cold audience that's finding you consistently. But we also want in that content to let like we want to warm people up that you start using this kind of like insider language. You're building your brand around a community that understands you, that they want to be part of this community. Like who are some of the people we watch? Like Hormozy, he talks about, I have nothing to sell you, or at least he used to. So like that was some of his language. There's a really fun channel called, oh my gosh, you have to watch this. It's called You Suck at Cooking. It's so funny.
Okay.
Instead of saying pepper, he says pepper, pepper, pepper. And instead of saying spatula, he calls it a wang jangler. And so there's these like funny insider language that then if you hear someone else say that, you're like, oh, you're part of the community. I watch that too, and like brings people together.
It's
So
like when you see Jeeps driving around with the ducks on the dashboard.
yeah,
Is that,
I see that all the time. What is that?
I don't know. It's a Jeep thing.
It's a Jeep thing.
There's also like a Jeep Wave too. I drove a Wrangler like my senior year in high school, and it was my dad's, and he's like, if you see any other Jeeps, you have to wave because people know that's my Jeep. Like you can't not wave.
I had no idea. We're clearly not in on this.
I know it's a Jeep thing. Like there's literally like swag that says like it's a Jeep.
Good for them. See how I'm like, there's the curiosity of what am I missing out on?
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to check this out. And it'll only cost you $30,000 for a Jeep.
I thought Steven had a Jeep.
He has something else, Forerunner or something like that.
Something, who knows? A vehicle. It goes down the road. Okay. This is actually a good segue into the next part of this because I want to talk about the role of like personal development in your journey as well as entrepreneurial relationships. Like you guys are, I think, didn't you launch a podcast together?
Yes.
Like,
well, it's launching in September. You will hear, we will plaster the internet with all this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to me about like personal development and entrepreneurial relationships. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Say that again.
It's like a fun game. When you're in the game, you get it. When you're not, it's like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But it's also like, why would I stay stuck? It's the momentum of feeling like there's growth. And even when, I don't know if you feel this, but when I'm stuck in something or there's some stagnant energy or it feels like I'm in some anxiety or pain, I still have this like third party narrative that's narrating the story outside of myself, like an out of body experience of like, this is going to be great on the other side of it. Like just keep trudging along that path because there's a story at the end of this. You're going to.
I love that. I don't have that.
No, I feel like maybe the filmmaker in me that like I live my life from a first person and the third person. I thought that everyone had that. No.
I mean, I have like the internal dialogue, but I don't feel like it's a third party voice telling me.
I feel like there's this little compartment in my brain that there's this little narrator that's sitting there and writing everything and is already future pacing how the story will be told.
Okay.
Interesting.
That could be, well, so this could be like a growth opportunity for me because maybe that's like next level.
People listening to this, please comment below or reach out to us, message us, tell me if you have this too.
So normal.
Tell me I'm crazy.
Does your life have a director, producer? Like all these things.
Grip,
That's so funny. So the role of like momentum though, right? Oh man, your post the other day of like, when did I become a biohacker? And I commented, I was like, I think for me, it was Alex Sharfin, and we were in his mastermind together. And he talked so much about the role of like hyperhydration. And that was like, I did that. And then I was like blue blockers and zero drop shoes and primal walks and all of that. And the word like momentum that has so much been embedded into my brain is also thanks to Alex. And I was explaining this to a friend the other day about how like momentum isn't innate. And motivation is not always innate. Sometimes we have to have some sort of a catalyst that like pushes us into that. And then we like get in this cycle of momentum and motivation, and it's continuous until we pull ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
For me, it's been running. I've been running every day for 5 weeks now. And before that, like for I don't remember how long I was walking every day. But that motivation came from my 3-year-old of like, Mommy, let's run. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Just started running. And then I was like sweaty and I'm like, okay, I'm going to change my schedule, change everything because I'm actually running every day. And then I realized I'm running every day.
Now
And
your
I was not
identity, your identity is a runner.
It is now, and I never ever thought I would identify as a runner. Never. I say it now and I'm still like, what? But I mean, today I celebrated a milestone and like my pace for a mile was fantastic. And I was like, I'm actually excited about this. I'm motivated to keep going. And my momentum is like creating other people's inspiration and like bringing up that motivation that creates more momentum. And like I said, it's just like this centrifuge of like momentum just continuing to go and go. And that's just been a huge thing for me. So when you say momentum, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being around the people that continue to give that to you. I love this quote of like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And then I heard someone else kind of add to that of like, your revenue is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
What about those of us who have, we stay home and our kids are here because they're.
Wait a minute. Adults.
Okay.
Our kids are broke.
My kids don't make that much money.
Yeah.
And they just spend it all.
Yeah. Family unit accounts for 1. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Speaking of family unit, I want to talk about combining faith, family, and business. I know that recently you became a Christian and absolutely so thrilled to have you as part of the body of Christ. Absolutely, like I get chills just thinking about that. How is that influencing your work?
I never imagined praying before working, or looking to God as my business partner. Also didn't understand tithing. I thought tithing was the church just manipulating people to give them their money. Like I just had no idea. And I'm so sorry for anyone that thinks that I was naive. I just had no idea. And I mean, I feel like I have this like unfair advantage called the Holy Spirit to be able to find wisdom or ask for help, to be able to feel into what direction should I take. And before I would have called that intuition, and it still exists, but like it's just it's on a different level now.
I agree. That's so awesome. Like in complete celebration and standing with you in that. I absolutely love it. I loved when you shared your story. It was very transparent and raw and vulnerable, and it was very, very special, like for us to be able to see that. So, and I agree, like the Holy Spirit does move in our businesses and helps us decide like which way to go next. If we listen, if we're spending time in God's word, we will hear that. So real quick, I know we're short on time. I want to just talk a little bit like health and wellness. And I would love for you to tell them where they can find your like health and wellness journey because you've had a significant journey.
Yeah.
So talk about that real quick.
So December 2021, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and the doctors told me that it was a ticking time bomb. I needed to get a hysterectomy. I was only 31. Hope you don't want to have kids because we got to get this out. And freedom is having a choice, so I was like very upset about that. And thought that I was just, I mean, also I move fast on things and I'm quite impulsive. So like I scheduled it, thought it was going to happen soon. And luckily my marketing calendar did not allow for me to have a 12-week break. So I had to push it off. Thanks.
Marketing comes through again.
Yeah. But also in that time, I'm glad that I posted about it online, even though it felt very scary and vulnerable too, because a lot of people, amazing people reached out with advice and suggestions, and a lot of it just with where I was at mentally, like went over my head. I couldn't receive all of it, but the people that did reach and come through started to point me towards a path of natural healing, which at first I was like, no, that won't work. Nope, I can't. Nope, that's woo-woo. And now I'm like a huge advocate for it. I have been able to share my story with people, and whatever path works for them. Like again, freedom is having a choice and knowing all the options, and hopefully making a choice not from a place of fear like I almost did. And I think that I would have had a lot of regrets. And so my YouTube channel, there's some videos on my YouTube channel about my journey. There's also an Instagram story highlight on my Instagram that tell people everything that I learned, all the things that I did, detoxing, changing our water source, the types of food that we eat. Gosh, there was so much. Like it's a rabbit hole, and it's almost like once you see it, you can't unsee it. But it's so strange to say, like, I'm so grateful for cancer, because I don't know how I would have learned these things, or why I would have been interested in learning these things until it happened. And now I'm not afraid of it anymore. Like if I was to get a different diagnosis, or if someone in my family were to get a diagnosis, I would feel empowered. Like, I've walked this path. I know what to do.
So powerful.
Obviously with nuances, but anyone that has questions, reach out, watch those resources. Would love to support you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any final thoughts before I close this out?
I was just on a podcast before, and a big thing that we talked about was like having just this irrational belief in yourself and going after impossible goals. And so I'll just repeat that again here for anyone that needs to hear it.
Yeah. It reminds me of Alex Sharpin. I don't know if this is actually his original quote, but he says imposters don't get imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I have to keep telling myself when I'm like, I feel like such an imposter. I'm like, okay, that means I'm authentic. Like, come on, Jody, come back to center. Like, it's okay. See that? Maybe that is my third person talking. We'll see.
There you go.
All right. I'm going to make sure that we drop Marley's content or contact information in the show notes, so you can go follow her on YouTube, subscribe to her channel, follow her on Instagram, because she's always putting out great content that's only going to help you as an entrepreneur. And of course, Facebook ads can amplify some of that too. So thank you so much, Marley. I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the $1 Million Marketing Show. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into the world of marketing, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And hey, if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a review and spread the word to your fellow entrepreneurs. Your support means the world to us, and it really helps us reach more entrepreneurs just like you. Until next time, remember that in business, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. I'll catch you on the next episode.